morning, it is Technique Tuesday. We always start pretty much by taking a look at the infographic, which is what we're going to do now. And the infographic today says, Onset, is yours breathy, glottal or balanced? Time to get that airflow coordinated, get synchronized. Now let's just have a closer look. The first thing you have to consider is, what is the nature of your personal onset at this point in your vocal technique journey? Number one, lots of people don't realise what the importance of onset is and what the part that plays, the sound you make. Alright, so what we're aiming for is to have one of those types. It's either going to be breathy, or it's going to be glottal, or it's going to be balanced. Now, one of those is the ideal. It's balanced. Now, what that means is that imagine your vocal folds. Okay, now you know the scenario. Okay, they are two little mucous membranes that sit at the top of your windpipe. They are 3 to 6 cells thick each. That's it. Okay, little mucous membranes, which when the opening, it closes as the air comes up underneath your lungs and meets them. You're hoping that the vocal folds will close. Okay, and that's the difference between just hissing or zizzing. Zzz. Okay, so you're hoping that you're making sound, onset of sound. That's where the vocal folds have come together, the air is coming and travelling up underneath, and it meets a certain kind of resistance factor, which we call the subglottic pressure. Okay, bit technical, but still we need to sort of know about it. Okay, and the point of onset there depends on lots of different factors. Getting it just right. So this is coming from a slightly more technical book that I have talked about before, Singing and Teaching Singing. Appropriate phonation, that means the creation of sound, relies on 3 things. Muscular activity to bring the vocal folds to the midline so that they meet, okay? Onset of airflow, that's the airflow is there and it meets them, and then coordination between the muscle and the breath. Here we have the onset of sound, the onset of air, the onset of sound. Complete adduction, that is closure of the vocal folds, is then accomplished by the intrinsic laryngeal muscles. The timing of the muscle movement and the breath flow is vital to develop an appropriate onset of phonation for the task in hand. If the airflow occurs before the glottis is closed, a breathy onset will occur. That's where you sound like a ha just before. If the closure is complete before the airflow commences, then you get a glottal attack. Sounds like a small click or like that. Okay. And this will result in the air forcing the vocal folds apart, which is what I just said. If it's used with too hard an attack, this can be seen as a vocal fault. The coordinated action of muscle and breath leads to a simultaneous onset, which is efficient and usually the most appropriate for classical singing. What we're after when we're thinking of balanced onset is getting the vocal folds closed just to the right point where the airflow meets it and you get onset of sound. So you can see that it's all very much to do with airflow, understanding how you arrive at the perfect airflow, and the only way you can do it is through trial and error. And that's where our warm-ups come in, when we all get together and we start to think about these issues. So let's just have one last look at the infographic for today, and that is onset. Is yours breathy, glottal or balanced? It's time to get that airflow coordinated. Get synchronized. Okay, so I think that says that quite nicely, in that it brings together all the ideas of the synchronization of everything happening together, and it kind of also gives it gives a realistic view on why sometimes these things can seem to be very evasive, very elusive, I should say. It takes practice, just bringing those vocal folds together at the right moment with the airflow just meeting them for that perfect onset of sound. That's why you need to practice. Okay, that's it from me for this week. Bye for now. Happy singing, everybody. Bye. But I think we ought to have a rule, and I'm guilty of this too, so don't think it's just you. It's not, it's me as well. I think we ought to have a rule. No negativity, no self-deprecation, no chastising oneself, okay? All right, it's all just work, the cogs, the wheel, it's all still just stuff that we're working on. So okay. With no more ado, let's get down to our Saturday morning live broadcast, and I'm taking it you can hear me okay. That's fab. Okay. And it's good just to refocus our minds as we go into some kind of vocal warm-up. Okay. All right, so we've been looking very much within the 30 days of singing at the essential 5. And I'm not joking, folks. You know I'm not joking. The essential 5, the knowledge of, the understanding of, the appreciation of is really critical to keep in your mind as you're doing your singing thing. And then out of that will come no more self-deprecation, no more self-judgment, just appreciation that these are tools you're learning to put into practice. Okay? All right? So let's just start right at the beginning. I don't know if you're standing or sitting, but let's just consider that posture idea. And of course, there's been much kind of emphasis on Alexander technique. The idea of postural alignment, balance, okay? So you should be standing or sitting right now, really feeling grounded, okay? So that as we sing and do our warm-up, even if you are sitting in the car, which I think Steve might be, even when you're sitting in the car, make sure that you're really sitting in the seat squarely, that you're not slightly sitting on one side, but actually you've got your sitting bones firmly on whatever they're on, and you get this idea that you are tucking the pelvis under, and that applies to when you're standing. And then you should feel that kind of lower back stretch, which is so relieving. It's so relieving. Okay, but then what you must not do is then sag in the middle. You've got to be able to elongate that spine and get that rib cage really expanding. Okay, so let's just do a bit of breathing together. All right, so this is in your own time, allowing the air in, really allowing the air in through an open mouth, remember, and then blowing the air away. Just do a few of those to get yourself in the groove, okay? So I'm going to do some too, but you do yours at your own, in your own rhythm. Okay. Okay. All right. So hopefully by now you're waking up the lower part of your rib cage. All right. This is something that we stay aware of all the time we're singing, so that when you get to the end of that long expanded phrase and you're feeling a bit kind of stretched in terms of how much breath you have left, you're not tempted to do anything other than to release that contraction and allow your back here to just open up again and suck in the air. Okay. Let's just do a breathing exercise, the actual one, okay? Hold air out, everybody. In your own time, remember, air in. Okay, so what you're trying to do there with that breathing exercise is engender the idea that there's always a moment's poise before you allow the air in, even if it's only minute. Okay, so there's not this automatic response to gasp and just get the air back in. You're really working as a machine. Okay, all right. So that's what the exercise is also trying to do. And I still see this element of panic, and I'm guilty of it too. So please don't think it's an exclusive club. It isn't. I do it too. There is this automatic response to panic sometimes, and just take the breath in such a way that it's never going to help you. So the breathing exercise is, yes, to control the airflow, get that sense of the air coming and going, but you're also trying to get those muscles to just do the response that you want. Okay, all right, so let's now do some sirening, okay? Because I know that Sue and Sophie like a sirening, I think. And we're going to start, let's just start by doing a fifth up and down, okay? And here, exactly the same thing is going to happen. You're allowing the air in. You're going to get your pitch. You're going to think, okay, as the air goes in, your jaw is going to just drop. It's just going to feel like nothing, like it's there, but it's just relaxing. Okay, and as you go to the of course, that lovely moment of onset is going to happen. Okay, and that's, you want it smooth and balanced, all that good stuff. You know, all the stuff I talk about all the time. And ideally, that's what we're doing in our songs as well. Okay, are you ready? So just up and down the fifth. So it'll sound like this. Okay, are you ready? Hold air out, air in. One more. Okay, now it's not about making a beautiful sound. It's about mechanics. It's about just you knowing what's happening. Now, I'm very aware when I do sirening that the position of my tongue, I'm really aware of that for some reason, and I rely on that. I don't want to get too graphic. I mean, it's been a bit of a graphic week in 30 Days of Singing with the videos of the vocal folds working. Yes, your tongue is high at the back like mine. Just try and saying Okay, now as my tongue drops away to let the air in for the new one, I can hear a little kind of click, almost. Now, I rely on that as a kind of part of the rhythm thing when I'm doing this exercise, so maybe you could try that out as we do the next bit, which is the octave jump. Okay, so try not to, at this point, think about things like passaggio, that sort of stuff. Just focus on this idea of the air coming and going and the onset moment. Okay. Okay. I've still got this little raspy air intake thing. So if I start coughing, it's just because the air is literally irritating my airway. Okay, so here we go. Ready? Hold air out. Here we go. And Two more. Last one. Okay, how did you get on? Now, we're not talking about passaggio. We're just talking about getting that idea of the onset happening. Okay, and I was doing this kind of thing. I know that some of you will be absolutely okay with what that means, but if you haven't seen me do that before, what am I talking about? I'm talking about the fact that what we're hoping for in our perfect alignment with balanced onset is to get the relaxed jaw, okay, is to get the larynx so perfectly happy and so perfectly cradled. Excellent. So if you're not breathy at the top, fab. So that was a G, by the way. That was your phantom G. What we're hoping is to get everything set up so that the larynx is really, really happy, content, relaxed, free, so that you don't have to think about it. What will naturally be happening, if that is your larynx, right, roughly speaking, okay, that there is a certain element of, there is a certain amount of movement, which of course affords a better stretch on the old vocal folds, okay? So these basic exercises, okay, if you don't get any time to do anything else, these are what you should go to, because they really do sort out how your voice is coping. And interestingly, the sirening on top notes, you're going to only be able to get a little squeak maybe. Okay, that's what it feels like, sounds like to you, because remember, it's the resonance shifts to a different point back here somewhere, and what we perceive here is not what is perceived out there, and it's that element of trust that we are really trying to invest in when we're learning about vocal technique. Okay, it's not all about bursting through, trying to get your voice to do that thing. It's all about the same elements, okay? It's all about alignment. It's all about the breath flow, airflow. It's all about onset. Every single exercise have these things in it. The lip trills are about something else as well. And do you know what that might be? So we've gone, the basic 5. This is why if you don't know anything else about your singing, these 5 elements are so crucial. And I really do recommend watching that video, the TED Talk video that Josh Kaufman gave about this idea of 20 hours of learning is it. The extra ingredient with lip trills is this idea, this notion of support. For the first time, you might not be aware of onset and the airflow meeting and creating subglottic pressure beneath the vocal folds, but lip trills certainly kind of show it up, don't they? Let's do lip trills. Come on. All right, so let's do a few fifths to go up and down. Okay, remembering we are concentrating on these 5 essentials. We've done 3, and we're on the 4th one now, lip trills, which has all the elements of the first 3, of course, plus this more of this idea of what support might be. Okay, so here we go. So we're just going to go a same kind of thing, just to get the idea going. All right, it's not about pushing that air out, it's about precision actually. Okay, here we go. So do your best. Hold air out, breathing in, and okay, sorry, it really gets to me terribly, and my glasses seem to vibrate as well. Anyway, okay, now I kind of pointed to my mouth as I was doing that because I was hoping you were still thinking about this idea of coming to the end of your lip trill. Everything stops momentarily. And then you go on to the next one, allowing that airflow, that allowing and that movement of your back, which then goes and sucks the air in. Before you know it, you've got exactly the right amount of air in because you're thinking about where the next step is. See how it goes? All right. They require a lot of concentration. Yeah. Lip trills are golden. They need that extra thing. Okay, and I'm glad Steve is still here. Okay, now we're going to do the octave ones. Okay, now we're going to go for it this time. We're going to keep going up and down. So be prepared for this happening. You can't organize it, but the one thing that will enable that to happen will be your good old support. This idea of, for want of a better word, apoggia, which means leaning into it. It's kind of this idea of the resistance of the air coming up, meeting those little vocal folds, and of course you've got the supra and subglottic pressure, which happens naturally, okay? But with lip trills, this is really great for organizing your balanced onset. It's all wrapped up, okay, in the shiny wrapper. Okay, here we go. So I'm going to try and keep going this time, sort of just challenging ourselves a little bit with where we're going. Be prepared for weird sounds. We're going to press on through that passaggio, concentrate on the basic elements this morning. So octaves, we're going for it. We're going to keep going, and you're going to try and remain focused on your support idea. Okay, here we go. Hold it out. Breathing in. One last one. Dear, that was excruciating for me. How did you do? Let me read some comments. Yes, they do take concentration. Easier higher up the scale. Oh, interesting. Okay. Anybody got any idea as to what pitch that final one was? Okay. And did you feel, because we've taken in the right kind of approach to these exercises, did you feel that it was easier than normal? Okay. Excellent, Sophie. Okay. But you could still go back, and use this warm-up to see. And a lot of, I think that sometimes what stops us in our tracks, and I know because I'm guilty of it, anything negative you feel or think or hear whilst doing these exercises completely stops everything. Okay, well, folks, I will tell you that we were doing a top C at the end there. So, Sophie, your penultimate pitch was a B. Okay, now let's just do one more exercise before we stop today, because I don't want to go on, because there's lots that we're actually covering. Maybe two more exercises, actually, just thinking about it. What I'd like to do is this one, and it still is relevant to what we're working on this morning, because every time you get a chance to stop and rebreathe, of course, you're going to be thinking about that moment's poise before you allow the air back in. So we're going to start and do this one just as a nice little kind of run into what I want to do in a minute. Okay, it's going to be okay. Now the vowels obviously e, r, or u, o, r, e. Now if you say them to yourself like that, you can feel the onset moment for each one. Should we try it together? Here we go. E, r, o, u, o, r, e. And for me, the real nasty one that I don't like much is okay, and I can hear that when I just did it. So I'm going to be concentrating on trying to keep it the same. Now, as we're going through the notes, it's almost like each vowel is handing the baton to the next one. Okay, so I'll give you an example. So you're going to go E, now I concentrated much better then, and I didn't have my problem with my air. Okay, I mean my vowel sound air. Okay, all right, so see how you get on. All right, so you're trying to think of, I actually have little men in my mind handing over the baton to the next person, the next vowel. It's imagination, see, creative people. Here we go. Are you ready? Bye-bye, Steve. All right, so here we go. Ready? Hold air out, breathing in, and let's just stop there, just because time is kind of getting a bit short. Now, how did you do? What I was aware of as a singer was that, yeah, when I really concentrated on handing the onset over to the next vowel, I didn't have a problem with the airflow, but I was really aware how much more concentrated my effort had to be in maintaining it right to the end of the exercise. And of course, what are we talking about here? We're talking about that temptation to drop off, because we see the end in sight and we think, oh, as long as I get to the end, that's okay. Whereas when you're really concentrating, getting to the end of the phrase or the end of the exercise, your body pays for it and you become aware of it. And then it's that kind of psychological game about, do I give up or not? And of course, your audience won't be aware of that. They'll just think, oh, this is lovely. But you're thinking, oh my goodness, am I going to get to the end? But you do. So you practice that kind of paradox. Good word. Okay, now let's just finish on this exercise this morning, because I think it's a good one. Here we go. We're going to do this nice elongated exercise. Do you know what I mean by that? Where it goes, okay, now what it'll give us a chance to do is to do all the things we've been working on this morning. The posture, the airflow, the onset, the support, and the not dropping off, the concentration, handing over to each note. And what you may well find is that you'll be very aware of your body, actually, your physicality, and the kind of temptation for that little niggly doubt to come in and say, you're not going to make it. This is where it's okay to not make it, but don't drop off to conserve air. Keep going until the voice stops, and then take the new breath, because then you get a chance to reset and have another go. Does that make sense? Here we go. the whole exercise. We'll just keep going and see how we do. All right, and then we'll have to stop. Okay, so thinking about all the stuff we've been working on this morning. Ready? Hold air out. Breathing in. And I didn't prepare very well for the last one, so I could just feel a bit of tension at the last bit, which is, you can see my tongue going up and down. That's not an example to follow, but we did get up to a top A doing that exercise. All right, so you have to bring together all the elements that we've been talking about this morning, okay? They all have to be present, and although we didn't get to, well, yes, we have done sirening today, so we have actually covered the 5. And you can see, can't you, how they are all interlinked so much. And they are still present when we go on to do different exercises. But without the understanding and the idea of how to apply those principles, you could sing those exercises 100 times a day, but not make any improvement unless you know what you're doing. That makes sense, right? I'll let you into a secret. These ideas of the 5 essentials, I only kind of fell into that, you know, and it was only because of repetition, of teaching over so many months. And I suddenly thought, you know, I just constantly keep going back to 5 basic exercises. And I thought, you know what, really, if you think about it, that's all that we talk about, even at a much more advanced level. And all those people at the summer school that I sat in on those sessions and watched being worked on, they were the kind of things they needed help with. Okay, I'm going to stop there because I've now been going on for nearly 40 minutes. Have a lovely weekend, and I'll see you all again virtually online. Bye for now.